This evening I wanted to focus on the most Baroque painting of the 1970s, The Murder of Andreas Baader by Odd Nerdrum. And this is how the sketch for that painting looks like. And I want to get back to that at the very end to see how a motif develops from sketch to the finished result and how you can improve your storytelling. So, in any composition, the way you analyze it, the way you build it up, you look at the diagonals first. And there's always one main diagonal, one dominant diagonal. In this case, it should be pretty obvious. This follows or goes through the whole group, and Baader shoots forward along that diagonal. Now, a diagonal becomes stronger if you repeat it. It mustn't be too obvious. So these are more subtle things like the shadow ending here or the light starting here. The direction of the arm, this little angle here, almost touching it. Of course, his underwear, and then the side, the contour line of his back here. On the other side, taking as its vantage point, the gun, the direction of the gun. You see, if you see one line, where does it end up if you continue it? Well, it makes him quite important through the gun, through his head, and then by the other side of this man's back. The other diagonal is not that obvious, but we see that the man behind Baader leans on it, and to a certain degree it is picked up by the bed. Now, this is enhanced by two main echoes, because this diagonal is so important and this is less dominant. It is echoed several times. With this diagonal, he pulls up, trying to keep this whole group of figures from falling out of the painting. With the next one, he is an anchor that keeps this whole group from falling over. We'll get back to the importance of this and this figure here. So you have other lesser echoes, more unimportant echoes, touching the side of his face here and the direction of his jacket. You have the shadow ending there, the hand, the direction of the shirt, the sleeve, and his toes here and the side of the bed. This one is quite interesting, also quite subtle, but when you notice it, quite clear. The frame, the angle here, the corner of the frame, following the contour line through his leg, upper leg, keeping the warden's head up, supporting the warden's head, and going down to his sleeve. And then this little last echo here through the warden's leg. So there's one dominant diagonal and one less dominant. The main energy in this painting comes from this man and goes through the whole group, and Baader shoots forward. So in some way you can say that it's like a bow where the arrow is being shot out. This man then becomes a pole in the background, quite clear. From him comes the whole energy of the painting. But if this is not countered by a counterforce, then the whole group falls out of the painting, and that is why he is pointing his hand or opening his whole arm, pointing down to the bed. So this becomes an anchor that keeps this part of the painting from tipping over. Another X you can make is the horizontal and the vertical one. If you take the horizontal one, you see that all the weight is on the lower part. And then you see also that Baader's really being shot forward, literally speaking. And you see the importance of this man. He is the only one in the upper part here trying to keep everything up through his action. And it makes this man even more important when you divide it like this. You see the importance of this man. Now, if you take the other central line, then you see that the right side of the picture is the past. He is showing us where Baader was sleeping, and this is the future. Baader will fall down on the floor. So what is the present? It is the gunshot. And we identify with what is happening through the fact that this man's ear is in the very center of the whole painting. This is also then stasis or lack of movement, and this side has movement. He is shooting forward, he is trying to keep it up, and the warden then will fall down when Baader falls on top of him. Another thing you can do when you analyze compositions to learn how to make your own compositions is when you have this cross, you do the diagonals and you see that this man is echoing this line, and this lamp here is perfectly put, the angle of it is perfectly put on that line. Now, having lines like this doesn't mean that everything has been exactly on the line, but you can use it sometimes to do it, and sometimes you allude to it. You echo it. The other diagonal here is not so obvious in terms of a line, but this man, of course, is looking in that direction. In this case, you can say that the warden is sliding down this line, being supported by it also. And you have this line, which is more obvious again, with the fingertips here, side of the bed, the knee, and where the light ends on the hand. Another thing you can do, if you really want to go crazy doing lines, you take the corner and you take a line down to the center. You see that this also follows the general direction of Baader and the man in red. The other one, not so obvious, but there are some things that he is placed on it, so it's more subtle. Again, not all lines can be as dominant, but this little thing here, the sleeve of on the coat, the elbow, this here, the knee to a certain degree, are placed on it as a subtle tightening up of the composition. This way, not too obvious perhaps. I think the shirt here perfectly touches that line. You can see that this is placed on it. So these are very subtle references that you can add to tighten things even more. And if you take this cross away, you only have this white line. You really see the importance of this man in keeping this whole group of figures up, because he is separated from them and the only one, through his muscle power, keeping them from falling. The other line here too is not too obvious, but it generally follows the direction of this man. So there's a thing about force, counterforce. Baader shooting forward. Now, what I've been thinking about with this painting, I'm just making this up now, but you could imagine that Odd Nerdrum didn't have this hand there in the beginning. And he is shooting forward and he wants to maximize that as much as possible. Obviously, this guy shooting upward does maximize it quite a bit. But if he adds a hand there, he pulls backwards. That makes his force forward even stronger. And obviously, when you add this arm pulling upwards, then it becomes even stronger. So there are also subtle things here, like Baader is really trapped here. Because the knee of this man comes in front of his leg, the thigh here, Baader cannot straighten out his leg, and he falls even more. Thank you for checking out this video from the Cave of Apelles. If you want to watch the entire segment, head over to caveofapelles.com/donate and become a $5 patron. Then you can access our masterclasses, bonus material with our guests, painting videos, and more.